The massive alien ship hung in space like a dark metal mountain. It was 3 miles long and covered with strange lights that pulsed in patterns no human could understand. Inside the ship, Commander Vexithala stood on the bridge looking at the small blue planet below. "Such a tiny world," Vexithala said to his crew. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "The creatures living there are so primitive. They still use chemical rockets to reach their own moon." The other aliens on the bridge laughed. They had done this many times before. Find a new world with intelligent life, make contact, and force them to join the Galactic Council. It was always the same. The new species would be scared, then they would surrender, then they would become servants. "Send them the standard message," Vexithala ordered. "Tell them they have 30 of their days to decide, submit or die." On Earth, it was a normal Tuesday morning when everything changed. President Jake Morrison was drinking coffee in the White House when his phone rang. The voice on the other end was shaking with fear. "Sir, you need to see this right now. Every radio and television on Earth is showing the same thing." Morrison turned on the TV in his office. The screen showed a creature that looked like a giant squid standing upright. Its skin was gray and wet, and it had tentacles where a mouth should be. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English, but the voice was cold and mechanical. "People of Earth, I am Commander Vexithala of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world has been chosen to join the Galactic Council. You have 30 days to surrender. Give us half of your population to work for us. Give us half of your resources. Accept our rule over your planet. If you refuse, we will destroy your world and everyone on it." The message played on every screen across the planet. In Tokyo, businessman Ken Tanaka stopped in the middle of the street to watch. In London, shop owner Mary Collins dropped her teacup. In Cairo, teacher Ahmed Hassan gathered his students around the radio. Morrison called an emergency meeting. Within hours, leaders from every major country arrived at a secret location deep underground. The room was filled with worried faces and nervous whispers. Dr. Lisa Carter was the first to speak. She had studied space and alien life for 20 years. "I've been monitoring their ship," she said. "It's huge, and it has technology we don't understand. Energy shields, weapons that could level cities, and they got here faster than light speed." General Pete Jackson looked grim. He was a tough old soldier who had fought in 3 wars. "I've run the numbers. They have one ship, but it's more powerful than our entire military combined. If they want to destroy us, they probably can." The room fell, silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Earth was facing its first alien contact, and it was not going well. "What do other worlds do when this happens?" asked President Morrison. Dr. Carter pulled up a holographic display. "I've been studying their transmission signals. They've done this before many times. They find a new world, make this same demand, and the planet surrenders. Every single time." "Every time?" asked General Jackson. "Every time. According to their own records, they've conquered over 200 worlds this way. Some planets fight back for a few days or weeks, but they always lose. The Zephyrians are just too strong." Foreign Minister Elena Rodriguez from Spain raised her hand. "Maybe we should consider surrendering. Half our population is better than losing everyone." "No," said Morrison firmly. "We're not giving up billions of people to be slaves." General Jackson stood up. "I agree with the president. My grandfather fought in World War II. He used to tell me that some things are worth fighting for, even if you can't win. Freedom is one of those things." Dr. Carter looked worried. "But General, this isn't like any war we've ever fought. These aliens have been conquering worlds for thousands of years. They know exactly what they're doing." "Maybe," said Jackson, "but they've never fought humans before." The meeting continued for hours. Some leaders wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight. In the end, they decided to vote. The result was close, but clear. Earth would not surrender. President Morrison was chosen to send the reply. He stood in front of cameras that would broadcast his message to the alien ship and to every person on Earth. "Commander Vexithala," Morrison began, "we have received your message. After careful consideration, The people of Earth have made their decision. We will not surrender. We will not become your slaves. We will not give up our freedom. Earth remains free and independent. On the alien ship, Vexthala received the message with shock. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever said no to the Zephyrian Empire. Impossible, Vexthala said to his crew. They must not understand. Show them our power. Destroy one of their cities. But his science officer, a creature named Quindar, raised a tentacle. Sir, perhaps we should study them first. Their response is unprecedented. We should learn why they think they can resist us. Vexthala agreed. Very well. Access their information networks. Learn everything about these humans. Then we will know how to crush them properly. As Quindar began downloading human history, Vexthala felt confident. These creatures were primitive. They had no space fleet, no energy weapons, no shields. How dangerous could they be? He was about to find out just how wrong he was. On Earth, the 30-day countdown had begun. Governments across the world started preparing for war. Factories that made cars began making weapons. Scientists who studied medicine began studying explosives. Farmers who grew food began growing soldiers. Jake Morrison addressed the world one more time. My fellow humans, we face the greatest challenge in our history. We may be outgunned, but we are not outmatched. We have something these aliens don't understand. We have the spirit of a species that has never known how to quit. The clock was ticking. In 29 days, Earth would face its first interstellar war. But Commander Vexthala was already beginning to suspect that he had made a terrible mistake. Deep in the alien ship's computer systems, Quindar was reading about human history. The Battle of Thermopylae, the Siege of Stalingrad, D-Day, Vietnam. The Middle East conflicts, each page made the alien scientist more afraid. By the void, Quindar whispered. What have we done? Quindar had been studying humans for 3 days without sleep. The alien scientist sat in front of dozens of screens, each one showing different pieces of human history. What started as simple research had become something much darker. This cannot be real, Quindar whispered, staring at images from something humans called World War I. Millions of soldiers had lived in muddy holes in the ground for years, fighting over strips of land smaller than a Zephyrian city block. The pictures showed young men climbing out of trenches, knowing most of them would die before reaching the enemy lines. But they climbed out anyway. Quindar's tentacles shook as he read about the Battle of the Somme. On the first day alone, 60,000 human soldiers were killed or wounded. Most species would have surrendered after losing so many. Humans fought for 4 more months. Why? Quindar asked the empty room. Why do they keep fighting when they know they will die? The alien scrolled through more records. The siege of Leningrad showed humans eating wallpaper paste and leather boots during a winter that lasted 900 days. They could have surrendered. The enemy had offered them food and warmth. Instead, over 1 million humans died rather than give up their city. Commander Vexthala entered the research room. Have you learned why they refused our offer? Quindar turned around, his gray skin even paler than usual. Sir, I think we made a mistake. These humans are not like other species we have conquered. Of course they are different, Vexthala said with confidence. Every species thinks they are special. What makes these creatures so unique? Quindar pointed to one of the screens. It showed human soldiers storming a beach while being shot at by machine guns. Bodies floated in red water, but more humans kept coming from the boats. They have been fighting wars for their entire history, Quindar explained. Not just small conflicts. Massive wars that killed millions of their own kind. And they never stopped learning how to fight better. Vexthala laughed. So they fight among themselves. That makes them weak, not strong. Divided species are easy to conquer. No, sir, you do not understand. Quindar pulled up another screen showing human weapons. Every war taught them something new. They learned how to make better guns, better bombs, better ways to kill, and they remember everything. The screen showed pictures of nuclear explosions. Entire cities disappeared in flashes of light brighter than stars. They made weapons using the same power that lights up suns, Quindar continued. Then they built thousands of these weapons and pointed them at each other for 50 years. They called it mutually assured destruction. They were willing to end their own world rather than surrender to each other. For the first time since arriving at Earth, Vexithala felt worried. How many of these nuclear weapons do they have? Enough to destroy their planet 10 times over? But sir, that is not the worst part. Quindar showed more images. They have something called special forces, elite soldiers trained to fight impossible battles. I found records of 12 humans holding off an army of thousands. One human sniper, who killed over 500 enemies before being stopped. Vexithala studied the images. The humans looked small and fragile compared to Zephyrian warriors. These must be exaggerations. No creature that size could be so dangerous. I thought so too, Quindar replied. But I cross-checked the records. Multiple sources confirmed the same stories. Sir, there is something else. They have been planning to fight wars in space since before they could even reach their own moon. The scientists showed videos of human movies and books from decades earlier. Stories about space battles, alien invasions, and interstellar wars. They have been imagining how to fight us for generations, Quindar said quietly. Every story, every movie, every game has taught them new ways to think about space combat. They have been preparing for this war without knowing it. On Earth, General Jackson was proving Quindar right. The old soldier stood in a room deep underground, surrounded by maps of the solar system and detailed plans for defending Earth. We always knew this day might come, Jackson told his officers. Every science fiction movie, every space war game, every crazy idea about fighting aliens has prepared us for this moment. Colonel Amy Brooks pointed to a display showing Earth's orbital space. We have been secretly weaponizing our satellites for years. Communication satellites, weather satellites, even the International Space Station. All of them can be turned into weapons. What about ground defenses? Asked Captain Steve Parker. Every major city has underground tunnels and bunkers, Jackson replied. If they land troops, we will make them fight for every street, every building, every room. Urban warfare is our specialty. Dr. Lisa Carter joined the meeting with new information. I have been studying their ship's transmissions. I think I know how their technology works. We cannot match their weapons yet, but we can build things they will not expect. She showed them plans for kinetic weapons, simple metal rods launched at incredible speeds. No energy shields, no fancy technology, just mass and velocity, the same physics that make bullets work. Meanwhile, President Morrison was addressing the world again. Every human on Earth watched as their leader spoke from the White House. My fellow humans, I know you are scared. I am scared too. But fear can make us stronger if we use it right. These aliens think they know us because they have read our history. They see our wars and think we are violent savages. They are wrong. Morrison paused, looking directly into the camera. Our wars did not make us savage. They made us survivors. Every battle taught us that freedom is worth fighting for. Every soldier who died taught us that some things matter more than life itself. Around the world, humans were listening. In factories, workers stayed late to build weapons. In schools, teachers explained to children why the adults looked so worried. In hospitals, doctors prepared for casualties they hoped would never come. Back on the alien ship, Quindar was reading about human resistance movements. Stories of ordinary people becoming guerrilla fighters when their countries were invaded. Farmers who became saboteurs. Shopkeepers who became spies. Children who carried messages through enemy lines. Sir, Quindar called to Vexithala, I found something disturbing. When humans are invaded, their entire population becomes military targets. Not just soldiers. Everyone fights. Impossible, Vexithala replied. Civilians do not fight wars. Civilians do. Quindar showed records from World War II. When their cities were occupied, normal people made bombs in their kitchens. Grandmothers hid weapons. Teenagers blew up bridges. They turned their entire society into a weapon. The Alien commanders studied the records with growing alarm. In every conquest the Zephyrians had made, they fought only the enemy military. Once the armies were defeated, the civilians surrendered. But humans seemed to have no clear line between soldier and civilian. "There is more, sir," Quindar continued. "They have something they call the Geneva Convention, rules for how to fight wars properly, but when they are desperate enough, they break their own rules." The scientists showed records of firebombing campaigns, chemical weapons, and other tactics that violated human laws of war. They made rules to limit their own brutality, Quindar explained. But they will abandon those rules if their survival is at stake. "Sir, I do not think we can win this war easily." Vexathala was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. "Send a message to the Galactic Council. Request additional ships for the conquest of Earth." "How many ships, sir?" "All of them. Every ship we have." Vexathala looked at the screens showing human history. "I think we are going to need them." As the alien commander left the research room, Quindar continued reading about human wars. Each story was worse than the last. Humans who fought to the death rather than surrender. Soldiers who threw themselves on grenades to save their friends. Entire cities that chose destruction over occupation. For the first time in 3,000 years of conquest, a Zephyrian scientist was truly afraid. The aliens had awakened something they did not understand. Something that had been fighting and learning and preparing for this moment since the dawn of human civilization. The countdown continued. 26 days until the deadline. But Quindar was beginning to suspect that the real countdown had started long ago, when the first human picked up a rock and decided to fight back against a stronger enemy. The Zephyrians had declared war on the deadliest species in the galaxy. They just did not know it yet. 20 days remained before the alien deadline. In a massive underground facility carved into the Rocky Mountains, General Jackson stood before the largest gathering of military leaders in human history. Representatives from every army, navy, and air force on Earth sat in the huge meeting room. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jackson began, "we are about to fight the first interstellar war in human history, but we are not going into this blind. We have advantages these aliens do not expect." Colonel Amy Brooks stood up with a thick folder of papers. "Our industrial conversion is ahead of schedule. Every major factory on Earth is now producing military equipment. Car companies are making tanks. Phone companies are making communication gear for soldiers. Even toy companies are making parts for weapons." The numbers were incredible. In just 10 days, humanity had transformed its entire economy into a war machine. Something that usually took years had been done in weeks. "What about our space defenses?" asked Admiral Kate Wilson, the new commander of Earth's Space Forces. Dr. Ben Hayes, a physicist who had been working around the clock, answered her question. "We have turned every satellite into a potential weapon. Communication satellites now carry kinetic projectiles. Weather satellites have been fitted with small nuclear devices. We even attached rocket engines to some of our space junk, General." Jackson smiled. "The aliens think we are primitive because we use chemical rockets. They do not know that we have been putting things in space for decades. We have thousands of objects up there, and now most of them can be used as weapons." Captain Steve Parker, who was training the new Terran Marines, gave his report next. "We have recruited 5 million volunteers in the past week. These are not regular soldiers. These are people who know that if we lose, their families will become slaves. They will fight harder than any army in history." Around the world, the preparation was incredible to see. In Detroit, car factories worked day and night making armored vehicles. In Texas, oil refineries produced fuel for military vehicles. In China, electronics factories made radar and communication equipment. In Germany, engineers designed new weapons. But the most important work was happening in secret facilities that most people did not know existed. Dr. Lisa Carter led a team of scientists studying everything they could learn about alien technology, from the enemy transmissions. "We cannot match their energy weapons," Carter explained to a group of military engineers. "But we do not need to. We just need to find ways to hurt them." She showed them designs for new weapons that used simple but effective principles. Railguns that could shoot metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Particle beam weapons that could be powered by nuclear reactors. Explosive devices that could be hidden anywhere. The key is to make them afraid, Carter continued. They expect us to fight like other species they have conquered. Line up our armies and have a fair battle. We are not going to do that. In another part of the facility, Colonel Dan Miller was planning something that would have horrified the aliens if they knew about it. He was preparing for guerrilla warfare on a planetary scale. If they invade Earth, we will not try to stop them from landing, Miller explained to his officers. We will let them land, then make them wish they had stayed in space. The plan was simple but terrifying. Every major city had been secretly prepared for urban warfare. Buildings had been rigged with explosives. Subway tunnels had been turned into military bases. Even schools and hospitals had hidden weapons caches. Every civilian has been given basic military training, Miller continued. Not to turn them into soldiers, but to make them harder to control. The aliens will find it impossible to tell who is a fighter and who is not. Meanwhile, in space, Commander Vexithala was getting reports that made him more worried every day. The Galactic Council had sent additional ships, but they were taking time to arrive. More troubling were the scans of Earth's orbital space. Sir, reported his science officer, the humans have been very busy. They have launched over 300 new objects into space in the past week. Weapons? Asked Vexithala. We cannot tell. They look like communication satellites and space stations, but our sensors detect unusual materials and energy signatures. Quindar had finished his study of human military history and had moved on to human psychology. What he found made him even more afraid. Sir, I need to show you something, Quindar said, calling Vexithala to the research room. I have been studying how humans think during wars. The screen showed interviews with human soldiers from different conflicts throughout history. Young men and women talking about why they fought. Listen to what they say, Quindar told his commander. A human soldier from an ancient war spoke to the camera. I am not fighting for my government or my flag. I am fighting for my family, for my children who deserve to grow up free. Another soldier from a more recent conflict said, They can kill me, but they cannot make me quit. My grandfather fought in the last war. My father fought in Vietnam. Now it is my turn. Do you see? Quindar asked. They do not fight for conquest or glory. They fight for each other, for their families, for their future. That kind of motivation makes them incredibly dangerous. Vexithala watched more interviews. Human soldiers talking about their friends who had died in battle. Parents talking about their children serving in the military. Children talking about their fathers and mothers who were soldiers. This is different from other species, Vexithala admitted. Most civilizations fight because their leaders tell them to. Humans fight because they choose to. There is more, sir, Quindar continued. I studied their resistance movements. When humans are occupied by enemy forces, they develop something called an underground. Secret networks of fighters who never stop trying to free their people. The alien scientists showed records of resistance fighters from World War II. Ordinary people who became saboteurs and spies. Networks that operated for years under enemy occupation. They passed information through chains of people who never knew more than one or two others in the network, Quindar explained. Even if we captured and questioned thousands of humans, we could never destroy their resistance completely. On Earth, President Morrison was meeting with world leaders to discuss something that had never happened before in human history. For the first time, every nation on Earth was working together toward a single goal. We have differences, Morrison told the assembled leaders. We have disagreements about politics, economics, and religion, but we all agree on one thing. We will not be slaves. The unity was remarkable. Countries that had been enemies for decades were now sharing military technology. Nations that had never trusted each other were coordinating their defenses. The species that had spent thousands of years fighting itself had finally found a common enemy. In Russia, President Alexei Petrov was converting his country's massive nuclear arsenal into space weapons. We built these to fight each other, he told his generals. Now we use them to fight for each other. In Japan, Prime Minister Hiroshi Yamamoto was organizing the most efficient military production system ever created. We learned from our mistakes in the last World War, he explained. This time, we fight for freedom, not conquest. In Brazil, President Carlos Santos was turning the Amazon rainforest into a massive military training ground. If they invade Earth, they will face enemies who know every tree, every river, every hiding place. The aliens watching from space could see the activity, but they could not understand what it meant. To them, it looked like chaos. Humans running around, building things, moving equipment. They did not realize they were watching the most dangerous species in the galaxy preparing for war. Dr. Carter made a breakthrough on day 15. She had figured out how to build a weapon that could penetrate alien energy shields. It is based on something we use in mining, she explained to General Jackson. Shaped charges that focus explosive force into a small area. If we can get close enough to their ships, we can punch holes in their shields. How close? Jackson asked. Very close. Suicide mission close. Jackson nodded. We will find volunteers. He was right. Within hours of announcing the need for volunteers for extremely dangerous missions, over 50,000 people had signed up. They knew they would probably die, but they also knew their sacrifice might save Earth. As the deadline approached, both sides prepared for a war unlike any other. The aliens had superior technology and thousands of years of experience conquering other worlds. But they had never faced an enemy like humanity. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the aliens did not understand. They had the determination of a species that had never learned how to surrender, and the creativity of a people who had turned warfare into an art form. In 5 days, the war would begin. But both sides were already discovering that this would not be the kind of conflict anyone expected. The deadliest species in the galaxy was about to prove why they had earned that title. The 30-day deadline had passed. Commander Vexathala stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the blue planet that had dared to refuse the Zephyrian Empire. Around him, 300 warships waited for the order to attack. All ships report ready for battle, announced his communications officer. The humans have not responded to our final warning. Vexathala felt confident again. Despite Quindar's warnings about human warfare, the facts were simple. The Zephyrians had overwhelming firepower. Their shields could stop any primitive weapon. Their plasma cannons could destroy cities. This would be over quickly. Begin the attack, Vexathala ordered. Target their major population centers. Show them the price of defiance. The alien fleet moved toward Earth in perfect formation. Their plan was simple and had worked on every other world. Destroy a few cities to show their power, then demand surrender. Most species gave up after seeing what alien weapons could do. But as they approached Earth, something unexpected happened. "Sir," called the sensor operator, "we are detecting multiple launches from the planet's surface. Hundreds of objects are rising toward us." "Missiles?" asked Vexathala. "Unknown. They are too small to be dangerous to our ships." Admiral Kate Wilson watched from Luna Base as Earth's first space battle began. She had been waiting for this moment her entire military career. Around her, dozens of officers tracked every movement of the alien fleet. "All orbital platforms are online," reported her tactical officer. "Satellites are responding to commands. Space debris is in position." Wilson smiled. The aliens thought they were fighting a primitive species with simple rockets. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Execute Plan Hornet's Nest," Wilson ordered. Across Earth's orbital space, thousands of objects that looked like harmless satellites suddenly activated. Communication satellites split open to reveal kinetic projectile launchers. Weather satellites turned toward the alien fleet and fired clouds of metal fragments. Even pieces of space junk that had been floating in orbit for decades suddenly sprouted rocket engines and changed course toward the enemy ships. On the alien flagship, chaos erupted on the bridge. "Impossible," shouted the sensor operator. "The debris field is moving. Everything in orbit is attacking us." The first wave of human weapons hit the alien shields like a metallic hurricane. Thousands of small projectiles moving at incredible speeds slammed into the energy barriers protecting the ships. The shields held, but they flickered and wavered. Under the assault, shields at 80%, reported the defense officer. These projectiles are too small to penetrate, but there are so many of them. Vexathala watched in shock as wave after wave of human weapons struck his fleet. How can they control so many objects at once? On Earth, Dr. Ben Hayes was coordinating the orbital attack from a command center buried deep underground. Phase 1 is working, he announced to General Jackson. Their shields are holding, but we are draining their power. Begin Phase 2, Jackson ordered. High above Earth, the International Space Station suddenly broke apart, but it was not an accident. The station had been secretly converted into the largest weapon platform humans had ever built. As it separated into sections, each piece revealed hidden missile launchers and particle beam weapons. The alien fleet was now fighting battles on all sides. Above them, below them, and around them, human weapons attacked from every direction. It was like being surrounded by an angry swarm of metal insects. "Sir, we are losing ships," reported Vexathala's tactical officer. "The humans have somehow turned their entire orbital space into a weapons platform." 3 alien ships had already been destroyed when their shields failed under the constant bombardment. The humans were using a strategy the Zephyrians had never seen before. Instead of building a few powerful weapons, they had built thousands of small ones. But the real surprise was yet to come. Captain Ryan Clark had been waiting in his fighter for this moment. He was leading a squadron of 50 pilots in ships that looked like normal human spacecraft. But these fighters carried something special. "Dragon Squadron, this is Dragon Leader." Clark spoke into his radio. "Target the big one in the center. Remember, we only get one chance at this." The human fighters accelerated toward the alien flagship. To the Zephyrians, they looked like tiny insects attacking a mountain. The alien gunners easily shot down most of the human ships, but that was exactly what the humans wanted. Each fighter that was destroyed carried a special payload. Instead of exploding normally, they released clouds of metallic dust that stuck to the alien ships' hulls. The dust looked harmless, but it was actually millions of tiny robots. "Sir," called Quindar from the research station, "the human fighters are not trying to destroy us. They are trying to land something on our ships." Before Vexathala could respond, explosions began erupting across the hulls of dozens of alien vessels. The tiny robots had found weak points in the ship armor and detonated. "Themselves nanobots," whispered Quindar in horror. They turned their fighters into delivery systems for microscopic weapons. The battle raged for 6 hours. The aliens had superior firepower, but the humans had turned space itself into their ally. Every satellite, every piece of debris, every seemingly harmless object in orbit had become a weapon. When the smoke cleared, the Zephyrian fleet had lost 40 ships and hundreds of others were damaged. They had managed to destroy most of the human orbital weapons, but at a terrible cost. "Retreat to safe distance," Vexathala ordered. "We need to regroup." As the alien fleet pulled back, Admiral Wilson allowed herself a small smile. The first battle was over, and humanity had proven something important. They could hurt the aliens, but the war was far from over. Vexathala was already planning his next move, and it would be much more aggressive. "Prepare landing forces," he told his officers. "If we cannot defeat them from space, we will invade their planet directly." On Earth, General Jackson was receiving reports from around the globe. The space battle had been only the beginning. Now the real war would start. "They will try to land troops," Jackson told his staff. "When they do, we will show them what human warfare really looks like." Colonel Dan Miller had spent weeks preparing for this moment. Every major city on Earth had been turned into a fortress. Not the kind of fortress with walls and towers, but something much more dangerous. Urban warfare zones where every building could hide an enemy. "Remember," Miller told his officers, "we are not trying to stop them from landing. We are going to let them land, then make them regret it." In New York, London, Tokyo, and dozens of other cities, ordinary people were preparing for something extraordinary. Shop owners checked the weapons hidden in their stores. Office workers reviewed the evacuation plans that would turn skyscrapers into sniper positions. Even children had been taught basic survival skills. The aliens thought they were invading a planet. They were actually walking into the largest trap in human history. Captain Steve Parker was training the Terran Marines who would face the alien ground forces. These were not regular soldiers. They were volunteers who had grown up playing video games about fighting aliens, watching movies about resisting invaders, and reading books about guerrilla warfare. They have better weapons and armor, Parker told his troops. But they do not know our planet like we do. Every street, every building, every hiding place is our advantage. The preparation was incredible. In the sewers beneath major cities, supply caches had been hidden. In abandoned buildings, sniper positions had been prepared. In subway tunnels, command centers had been established. But the most important preparation was psychological. The humans were not just fighting for their governments or their countries. They were fighting for their families, their children, their future. As night fell on Earth, both sides prepared for the next phase of the war. The aliens would soon learn that conquering a planet was very different from conquering a species, and humans were about to show the galaxy why their long history of warfare had made them the most dangerous enemies any invader could face. Commander Vexithala looked down at the blue planet and felt something he had never experienced in 3,000 years of conquest. For the first time, he was not sure he could win. The deadliest species in the galaxy was just getting started. 6 months had passed since the first battle in space. What Commander Vexithala thought would be a quick conquest had become his worst nightmare. The Zephyrian Empire was losing a war for the first time in 3,000 years. The invasion of Earth had been a disaster from the very first day. When alien troops landed in major cities, they found empty streets and silent buildings. But the silence was a trap. Where are all the humans? Alien soldiers asked each other as they marched through New York City. The answer came in the form of explosions from every direction. Buildings collapsed on alien patrols. Sewer covers exploded upward. Even trash cans had been turned into bombs. Colonel Dan Miller watched from a hidden command center as his plan worked perfectly. They expected to fight our army, he told his officers. Instead, they are fighting our entire civilization. The aliens had superior weapons and armor, but they could not fight an enemy they could not see. Human fighters attacked from subway tunnels, rooftops, and abandoned buildings. They would strike quickly, then disappear before the aliens could respond. In London, a grandmother named Mary Collins had become one of the most effective resistance fighters in the city. She baked bread during the day and planted bombs at night. The aliens never suspected that the sweet old lady feeding stray cats was also destroying their supply convoys. The humans have turned their entire planet into a weapon, Quindar reported to Commander Vexithala. Every civilian is a potential fighter. Every building is a potential fortress. We cannot control territory because there is no safe territory. But the worst news was yet to come. Human ships had begun appearing in Zephyrian space, attacking alien supply lines and civilian targets. Somehow humanity had figured out faster than light travel in just a few months. Captain Ryan Clark led the first human deep space mission in a ship built from salvaged alien technology. His target was a Zephyrian supply depot in a system far from Earth. Remember, Clark told his crew, we are not just fighting for Earth anymore. We are showing the entire galaxy what happens when you attack humanity. The human attack was swift and brutal. The supply depot was destroyed along with 3 alien cargo ships. But Clark left something behind that terrified the Zephyrians even more than the destruction. A message broadcast on all frequencies. This is Captain Ryan Clark of the Terran Space Navy. We did not want this war. You brought it to us, now we are bringing it to you. Surrender now, or we will visit every world in your empire. The message spread throughout Zephyrian space like wildfire. For the first time, an enemy was threatening to invade their worlds. Alien civilians who had never known fear began to panic. Commander Vexithala was called before the Galactic Council to explain how a primitive species had become a threat to the entire empire. They are not primitive, Vexithala told the assembled leaders. They are the most dangerous warriors we have ever encountered. Every human is a soldier. Every human city is a fortress. Every human ship is a weapon. The council leader, an ancient creature older than the empire itself, spoke slowly. Are you saying we cannot defeat them? I am saying we have already lost, Vexthala replied. They do not fight like other species. They do not know how to surrender. They will keep fighting until either we are all dead or they are all dead. Dr. Lisa Carter, now serving as Earth's chief negotiator, met with Zephyrian representatives on a neutral space station. The aliens who had once demanded humanity's surrender were now begging for peace. What do you want? The lead Zephyrian negotiator asked. Carter's answer was simple. We want you to remember what you learned here. We want every species in the galaxy to know that humanity is not to be attacked. Ever. The peace treaty was signed 3 days later. The Zephyrian Empire agreed to withdraw from all human territory and pay reparations for the damage they had caused. In return, humanity agreed to stop their attacks on alien worlds. But the most important part of the treaty was a warning that would be sent to every civilized species in the galaxy. A message that would become known as the Terran Proclamation. Humanity wishes to live in peace with all species. We will trade with you, learn from you, and work beside you to build a better galaxy. But if you attack our worlds, threaten our people, or try to make us slaves, you will face the full fury of the deadliest species the galaxy has ever known. General Jackson retired to write the official history of the war. In his final report, he wrote words that would be studied by military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The Zephyrians made a simple mistake. They thought our history of warfare made us weak and divided. They were wrong. Our wars were not a sign of our brutality. They were our training. Every battle taught us something new about fighting. Every defeat taught us how to win. Every victory taught us that freedom is worth any price. Years later, when young alien cadets asked their instructors about the Terran War, they were shown a simple memorial that had been built on every Zephyrian world. It bore a message in both alien and human languages, in memory of those who fell in the Terran War. Let no species forget the lesson learned here. Do not declare war on humanity. They are very, very good at finishing wars. The galaxy was never the same. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not through conquest or intimidation, but by proving that some species are too dangerous to fight. The deadliest species in the galaxy had earned their reputation the hard way, and in the quiet halls of the Galactic Council, a new law was passed unanimously. The Terran Protection Act stated simply that no member species would ever again declare war on humanity. Some lessons the galaxy had learned were too expensive to forget.